Hello everybody, welcome back to Gelvin Valley Farming Simulator 15. We are in the middle of, well, I was going to say planting season, but I guess we have finished our planting and we are on to getting the place fertilized before we call it quits for the fall. I'm going to move him out of the way and we'll head into here and try to get a start fertilizing our fields. I wonder why it didn't open the gate. Oh my. Isn't that interesting? Fortunately, there's no collisions on it, but I do wonder what... I've been doing quite a bit of modding on this computer for FarmSim 15. And so basically when I make these videos, what I do is I swap out the map folder that has Gelvin Valley versus the other one that I've been modding on. And a lot of it is map modding type stuff that I'm doing, but a lot of it is other type stuff too. For example, I've been monkeying with a placeable fire, trying to do some things with it. I can't remember if I showed something about that on one of these episodes. But I'm basically using the same mods, when I test stuff on this other session that I have going. I'm using the same mods there that I'm using on Gelvin Valley. Oops, I need to get a little closer to the edge. So hard to use GPS sometimes when the edges are all abnormal. But using the same mod, so what I do is when I record an episode, I bring in the Gelvin Valley map, I cut, paste, get rid of the other map folder that I'm working on, I tuck it in another directory. So since there have been so many things moving, changing, updating, whatever, with all the modding stuff that I'm doing, I guess it doesn't surprise me that the gates don't open. I mean, it's like, what's going to break next? This other app that I was working on, and maybe that's happened to this one here, now that I think about it. I don't know what I did, but I all of a sudden discovered that every single animation that I had in the map broke. And fortunately, I still had, and a lot of these were factories, that would do stuff. You would bring in a raw product or several raw products, and it would output something of higher value that you could then sell, or you could take it somewhere else and do more things with it. So oftentimes some of these would have some animation associated with them, and it might be more than just opening a door here or there if the player was in a trigger. I don't know. Suffice it to say, they all broke. Well, now I'm wondering, maybe they broke here on Gelvin Valley too, if none of those gates are opening. I don't know how, but maybe that's what happened. So I'm going to need to figure that out. This placeable fire thing that I'm messing with is... Oh, hey, maybe we can do a GPS thing on this. That'll pretty well get it. Then we'll have a straight line in here. At least till I need to turn it. I just leave it straight. You know what? I think I will. I'll just try to make it simple on myself. But this placeable fire thing that I'm messing with has been a lot of fun. I'm not sure who made the mod. It's basically all it is it's a node that you can place down on the map, and out of the node is a particular type of particle animation, and this particle animation happens to look like flames. That's all. So, whether it's a campfire, there's several sized fires you can put down. Some of them even have a burning vehicle that you can put down with it, or whatever, like a burning bus or a burning tractor, something, I guess. And I know there's role play videos on YouTube where, I don't know, maybe they go up and they pretend to put them out. However, they do whatever they're gonna do, and all of it, of course, is fake. Insofar that this particular mod is being used. Although this one here happens to have a script associated with it, which is pretty neat. You can walk up to the fire, and I think you can basically turn it off. I mean, it's a simple toggle. We're not talking really complicated programming here, but you walk into a little trigger, and yeah, the player gets triggered. And you can turn the fire basically on or off at will once you have placed it. And which is pretty neat, so if you're clever in game and you're doing a role play, and if you have these fire trucks and they're, putting water on the flames, eventually you can quietly, if you want, knock the fire down, take care of it, and pretend you're extinguishing it. Well, I'm kind of messing with it here because one of the things you don't see with this placeable fire is you don't see the burned area. Well, I think I have figured out a way to get a burnt grass texture, if you will, on the map surface so that it looks a little bit different, so where the fire happens, you will also see burn marks. Whoop. I'm just scattering so much off into the ditch. I'm just fertilizing the next county. So I've been monkeying with that. It takes a little work to put it in the map. You got to add a texture so you can kind of put that in there so that when the fire hits it, it knows, it calls up a particular type of, I think it's a foliage that I put on there, another fruit type, if you will. Similar to chopped straw, this is a burnt fire, if you will. And so when fire happens after a certain period of time, maybe 30 seconds, now this placeable fire is starting to put burn marks on the map. And then I have some other things going into it too that I'd like to flesh out. Fire, of course, being what it is, doesn't just stay in one place, it spreads. So I have a feature in there now where it'll keep the original fire, although I think I even want to change that. But periodically, so far I think it's like once a minute, it will, the fire will spread. And basically all it is it loads up another placeable fire. It puts it at some small distance away from the original fire, kind of random, if you will. Right now it's random anyways. Maybe later I'll give it a direction, or it'll pick a direction, and then the fire will head off in that direction. But yeah, it'll load up another placeable fire, and it will keep doing this until it's extinguished. So, in other words, if the player doesn't put it out, you are slowly going to destroy your field. And if this happens, oh hey, now those gates opened. Well, now what the world? Alright, I gotta go see. If those gates open, how come this one here doesn't? Why, thank you. Okay, so maybe it was something with the last field that we were in. Maybe a trigger was deleted or something that makes the gate do what it does. Who knows? Who knows? So kind of what I was envisioning with this fire is, I've made some additions to the code here. All this is just private edit stuff, of course. But I want to add a specialization, I think, to the combined harvester for the chance of a combine fire. And obviously this isn't something that happens too often, but I tell you what, I mean, you just go to YouTube and you do a search for combine fire, and you're going to get all sorts of videos. And probably not even combines. I mean, there's probably tractors and everything that burns up somehow out in the field. You know, I don't know if I've shared in here. I know on the Lone Oak farm, when I worked on there, we were very, very close to having a combine fire one particular year, when an oil hose almost burned through in the combine's engine compartment, as I recall. So it was, like I say, we were very close to having something nasty happen. So I know it can happen, and you know, just what the stats are, how many times it happens a year, I don't know. But so I was thinking of, well, what if you created the opportunity for it to happen in farming sim? And so probably would be something that would go on a combine, and it would be some random thing. I don't know what you would tie it to. I suppose, well, I mean, this is Farm Sim 15. In 17, you know, where you started getting into maintenance, you could maybe tag it to maintenance. You know, if you weren't keeping up on maintaining your machine, you know, looks like we got a refill. If you weren't keeping up on maintenance, maybe that would mean you potentially have a bearing going out that you didn't catch. So maybe as maintenance deteriorates, if you don't keep up on it, the likelihood of a combine fire goes up, maybe. Or maybe it's just some random event that happens, and yeah, hopefully doesn't happen very often, and the farmer has to deal with. And if it happens to you know, take place when he has a standing field of grain, you know, he could really be in a pickle trying to take care of it. Otherwise, it's going to burn his crop up and destroy it. And obviously, too, if you have wheat stubble or whatever, it's also going to burn. But if you already have it harvested, then, you know, you're not as likely to care about it. Um, so, so that's kind of what I had in mind, or what I was thinking of, in terms of how to deal with this mod. And there's all sorts of issues to flesh out. You know, I don't anticipate I'd ever try to, you know, release this mod, especially not for an old game. But what it has encouraged me with, because I've always wondered if it would be possible, is, you know, is it possible to have, oh, for lack of a better term, scorched earth in farming sim? You know, I may have mentioned before that, you know, on the Lone Oak farm they had grass seed, and in that time era, most grass seed fields after harvest were burned. It was just routine. And I mean, the straw would be spread behind the combine harvester in the field. And, you know, at kind of a set time, we worked with the government to do it. They would let us know when it was okay, when the wind conditions were right to carry the smoke out of the valley. We'd go light it up. And of course, the fields would turn coal black in color. And, you know, but in game here, you know, the idea, I mean, we see how green the grass is, you know, next to this field. So, I mean, this is 15. Once we got to 17, the grass was treated like any other crop that you could have in a field. So, I already have a save going, or a series on Lone Oak in Farm Sim 17. But I think actually the video that I just recorded on it was actually picking up bales. Nowadays, that tends to be what they do with the straw. I mean, there's been some severe prohibitions for, ostensibly for environmental reasons, to kind of seriously curb the amount of open field burning, you know, that would take place. So they don't even do that much of it anymore. But I've always wondered if it'd be possible, and now I believe it is. Just have to be, well, just needs a little bit of creative modding. And That's part of what I love about modding is the ideas that come when you see other people's work, what they do, and then you get a germ of an idea as how maybe you could use their work and tweak it, add to it, your own spin on it, and turn it into something new. Kind of like this placeable fire. I didn't make it. Someone came up with it, but I think when I'm done with it, we're going to have the ability to kindle a fire on the map and it'll cause damage. What I don't know at this juncture is if it'll confine the damage only to a particular field. Um, each time the fire expands, or if it puts down a new fire, it puts another placeable on the map to do it. Well, there's a whole lot of algorithms that I can't see the coding to, where a placeable, the game engine determines whether it's going to allow you to put down a placeable. And so one area, for example, it won't let you put a placeable. Oop, I need to go in the right gate. One area where it won't let you put a placeable is in the main vehicle spawning area. You don't want to clutter up the area where you've allowed vehicles to spawn with a placeable, because then it means the player couldn't buy any more vehicles. So I know there's things that it checks for, so one of the things I got to watch for is will the fire allow, as it spreads, for itself to be placed right next to a tree, for example? Will it only let itself be put in a field? And honestly, for the first go around, if all I'm able to do is put it in a field that you own, I think that'll be good enough. Um, I suppose there are other refinements that could come in later versions of the game. I'm just fiddling with it to see what I can get it to do. It'd be kind of cool if you could get it to go kind of through a forest. If you weren't able to stop it and actually have it damage the forest. And the trouble is how do you do that damage? And there's other things on the map too. There's different types of objects. Trees are what are called split objects. Where they can be cut in half and stuff done with them. But a fence post, say, even though it would burn just like a tree trunk, or you could cut it just like a tree trunk, obviously you can't do that in game. It's a different type of object. Or a house, or an in-game car, like the traffic or whatever. It's probably not going to be able to damage those types of objects, or it'd be pretty difficult to. I need to get my indicators on so I can get traffic out of the way. Then I hope I can get this done before nightfall. And I think what it means is when I roll this sucker over, we're gonna be ready to harvest another crop in the morning. Yeah, and I don't know what other people's style is for modding. Mine seems to be tinker, 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 and try to get something to work, and then when it does, you add a little bit more to it. You take it in-game constantly to see what it does, and then I have experiences like this past weekend where I have a ton of work and fixing things that I don't know how they broke. Whether it's the animations in a particular map, I'm still baffled how that happened. It must have happened, I was adding this burnt texture to the map, and it broke all the animation. Like I say, I'm none the wiser on what happened. It's just the law of unintended consequences, and unfortunately in this instance, I didn't have a backup to go to, and nor am I sure I would have wanted to go to a backup. I mean, I did plenty of work getting this burnt texture installed into the map, so I would have had to go to a version before that and then redo all that work, and that still may not have fixed it. It may, who knows how long it's been broken. Just part of things that happen during modding. It's like you got this idea, you want to continue with it and pursue it, and then you have the annoyance of fixing something that broke while you were exploring and doing some new stuff. 'Tis the world of modding. Might have to come back for a teeny little part. Yep, I think I'll come back for that. Oh, okay, I'm actually able to get clear over there. This has a pretty good reach. Yeah, it's getting dark. So I say I gotta get this done in the daylight if I can. Yeah, and these fields are oblong enough and makes using GPS, especially with something that scatters it this wide, makes it kind of a non-issue. I'm sure I've probably asked this before, but those of you listening to this, you know, in any mods that you have used in your farming experience, what is the most unique mod that you've enjoyed messing with, if you will? You know, I just found these placeable fires here the other day. I think I'd seen them before. I'd seen them on YouTube. I think that's pretty clever. You know, that someone created something like that to put in a game that some YouTuber, role player could do. I'm going to try to expand on it so that it actually does have an in-game impact if you don't take care of them. So I'm going to need to figure out a way for the player to squirt water on them. May need to figure out a way that they can drag a cultivator over them and somehow get it to go away. Frankly, that's how a lot of fires are fought out in the wild anyhow. There's some water used, but a lot of it is with dirt, turning a spade and snuffing it out that way. But I would kind of like to know what your favorite mods were. I always liked script mods myself, where someone did something that you couldn't do in the regular game. And that's kind of the type that I enjoy. So that's kind of what I have going on the side as I record some of these. Always fiddling and tinkering with it. There's always something else, there's more to do. And this is all hoping to use it maybe on this other map. If I can ever get it started. You know, I keep just coming up with more ideas for it and trying to get them to work. You know, I just at length mentioned this one here, but there was another one I worked on over the weekend too and managed to get one little last spot and get it working. And that is the idea of a floodplain, if you will. This other map I'm working on has a quarry, and down in the quarry there's some water. And this is the real water, if you will. So like if the player jumped in the water, that's the one you would float on and that kind of thing. And if you drove your equipment into it, you would lose it. You'd have to reset them in order to get it back. I mention that because there are other types of water planes that a mapper, you know, will occasionally bring in for like a side pond or whatever. But I think in Farm Sim 15, maybe also 17, there could only ever be one main water table. So I have it that if it rains for, what is it, half an hour, I think that's how I set it up, that it will start flooding down there in the quarry. You know, I guess under the idea that whatever output is there, which you don't see, but it's just unable to handle it because it's too fast, you know, on the rainfall or whatever. So I think I give it half an hour, and then if it rains long enough, it will raise the the level of the water a full 6 meters down in the quarry. So it really will flood. Oops, we're out of fertilizer again. Let me go get the tractor. Oops. Drive it 10 miles to where it's supposed to be. Actually, let me just go out here. I don't need to go up that other one. Put on my indicators. Head on up the hill. Hopefully this can pull the hill. So it'll raise the water level 6 meters. So if the player, and see down in this quarry, in this other map, there happens to be, there's a BGA. I have a rock crusher down there. Have a cement factory, that produces bulk cement, and it'll produce a cement pipe, cement block, that kind of thing. Well, if you happen to have your equipment down in the quarry at that time, down in the BGA, they will be submerged. And if you needed them for some reason, you would have to do a reset. Something I need to test is, because then eventually after the rain quits falling, there's a certain time period where the water level will slowly recede. And something I need to test out is what happens when it fully recedes, and if there previously was equipment stuck down there and submerged, do you still have to reset it? Because I think when it knows it's submerged, the equipment will, or the coding in the game engine will call the vehicle broken, and anything that's broken, you're not able to enter, that kind of thing. So, but I'm kind of curious that if the water level receded, would it take that off of those bits of equipment? And further, if you save the game while there's a flooding going on and it breaks that equipment, if you reload the map with all those equipment under the water level, will it re-break them? And that kind of thing. And all these things I mentioned, I mean, these are just the joys and pains of modding. The law of unintended consequences certainly applies, where you poke the code one area and you have something cool you can try, like raising water levels, but maybe it doesn't behave as you believe it will in other areas. So that's something I just need to flesh out. But it was kind of cool to see the water level rise and see all that work and then slowly recede. So it'll add one more dimension for a second I thought that tree was floating there, but it wasn't. So it'll add one more dimension of playing on this particular map, hopefully. So I got that going on. I'm trying to do something with this fire. Another thing I'd really like to do modding wise, and maybe there's a mod out there that does it, that I could drag their code back into 15, I don't know. But everybody knows I'm short of money on here. I'm 18, almost 19 grand in the hole. I'll be more in the hole by the time I refill my fertilizer spreader here. And last episode, I think it was the last episode, I showed a spreadsheet where I'm trying to figure out what crops to raise to get the best bang for the buck, if you will. And it's something I'd like to observe and see. Like if we just go into this, into our finances for a second. We see the price here for all the various commodities or what have you, and we can go through them. We see wheat is up quite a bit to 200, and I went over a lot of these details in the last one. Maybe I should wait to sell until this green arrow. I don't like a negative balance, so maybe I could sell enough till it's no longer negative, and then just kind of wait for the price to rise. But wouldn't it be cool to be able to pick, say, wheat and say, I want to see the the historical wheat price for, say, the past 5 days. I think it changes like every hour on the hour. And so if I could write a script that somehow records all that data and then figure out a way to chart it on the screen, I think that'd be some cool information to have. And it's just raw numbers and what have you. I don't know what the hardest part of it would be, but obviously it would need to be saved somehow. Somehow be put in the save game file and whatnot to fully do it right, so that you can always call that up. I know the Seasons mod in 17 started kind of doing that, to kind of give some idea of. Actually, I think they took over the whole pricing model, if I'm not mistaken, to where it had seasonality in the pricing. Although it's somewhat this way in real life too, in some ways it almost made it a little bit easier. If you could hold on, you knew kind of which times of year would be the high points. Whereas in 15, you flat out don't know, because I think it's more random as to when the price is going to be up or down. But I don't know. I think that'd be kind of a fun mod to try. But as with so many things, the ideas are many and the time and the skill is few. So kind of gotta pick and choose the things that I can do. But I guess the fun part is if you ever get tired of working on one particular thing, there's always something else you can do that might suit your fancy. Anyway, I honestly don't know how I got talking about all that. I kind of intended something else for this particular session, and I'm looking at the clock, and another 30 minutes has blown by like nothing. And I'm also looking at another clock, and it's Monday morning is fast approaching, so I think I'm gonna call the episode there. Thank you so much for watching, stopping by to listen to me share a little bit on some of this. Hope you're all having a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next one. Bye bye for now.